I shouldn't have been awake. The clock blinked 2:17 a.m., and yet I was creeping into the living room like a guilty spy, phone in hand. That's when I saw it. Emma's phone buzzing on the sofa, glowing like a little trap. And there it was. Jake. My chest tightened before my brain even processed it. My stomach flipped. Wish you were here. 3 words and an emoji. And suddenly the floor beneath me felt unstable. I froze, fingers hovering over the phone. Should I pick it up? Should I confront her? No, I needed to see more, needed proof. The laugh drifting from the bedroom, soft, unaware, was the cruelest punctuation. I swallowed hard, a bitter cocktail of disbelief, hurt, and reluctant fascination. It started innocently enough, or so I told myself. It's just a friend, I repeated like a mantra. But the faint scent of unfamiliar perfume in the hall, the subtle shimmer of her eyeliner tonight, the way she laughed when I asked about her day, they all whispered differently. Something was wrong, very wrong, and here I was awake, bearing witness. The next day, I became a detective in my own life. I noticed patterns, every late shower, her insistence on keeping her phone face down, the obsessive interest in her marketing project. I cataloged each moment mentally, building a dossier I never wanted to have. Friends called it paranoia. My mother would have called it heartbreak waiting to happen. I called it survival. By Friday, obsession had set in. I tracked the texts under the guise of a battery saver app on her phone, my cowardly ghost haunting our home. Every ping tightened my chest. Every playful emoji seemed like it was mocking me personally. And yet, I couldn't stop. I was addicted to the proof. Saturday evening brought the first real twist. I caught her laughing on the phone. The same laugh she gave me when I told a joke she didn't get. Only this time, the joke wasn't mine. It belonged to someone named Jake, someone I hadn't met, but who existed in every corner of her life I was never invited into. My hands trembled as I tried to stay composed. When she walked in later, I plastered calm on my face. Neutral, casual, nothing. Her oblivious smile hit me like a punch. Innocence on display, hiding intent. I smiled back, a tight, dangerous curve. Inside, gears were turning, plans forming. I wasn't angry yet. I was amused. And that, I realized, was far more dangerous than rage. Dinner was a quiet battlefield. I noticed everything. The way she twirled her fork, avoided my gaze, laughed at her own jokes as though performing for an audience. I cataloged it all. Every detail could be a weapon, though not yet wielded. Almost, I wanted to applaud her performance. Almost. Later, alone in the bedroom, I stared at the ceiling and replayed memories, the good, the stupid, the intimate, all now reframed in the light of betrayal. And I smirked. Clarity is addictive. Bitter, yes, but intoxicating. I had caught her in something small. But small is where catastrophes begin. Sleep came fitfully, restless, dreamless. I woke with a plan. Not chaotic, not rash, but precise. The thrill of knowing before acting, of collecting puzzle pieces while the other person blissfully remains ignorant, is sweeter than any confrontation. Emma didn't know it yet, but the game had changed. I spent Sunday pacing our apartment like a caged animal. I noticed the smallest things. The way she left her coffee mug half empty, lipstick smeared at the rim, crumbs in patterns too neat to be accidental. Every habit she had became a data point in my silent investigation. Even her cat, Charlie, seemed complicit, brushing against my legs as if urging me on. Lunch was a quiet torment. She hummed in the kitchen, talking about a meeting that ran late. I nodded, mask perfectly neutral. Inside, I was cataloging every word, noting inflections, rehearsing questions I might ask in the future. The tension was delicious. I was addicted to it, and I hated that I loved it. By evening, I had evidence, screenshots, timestamps, little clues I pieced together like a meticulous puzzle. Yet I didn't act. Not yet. Acting would be messy. Acting would be reckless. Patience, I reminded myself. Precision would taste better. Revenge, subtle and controlled. is infinitely more satisfying than chaos. I lay in bed that night, staring at Emma asleep beside me, peaceful and oblivious. My mind was alive with possibilities. Every plan, every scenario played out like a film reel, darkly humorous and frighteningly precise. Betrayal is bitter, yes, but clarity is a drug, and I was high. The following week, I decided to lean into the performance. Emma thought she was starring in some secret romance comedy. Fine. I'd play supporting cast. Smiling husband, loving partner, the man too blind to notice. Only, I noticed everything. Every detail was a breadcrumb, and I was building a trail straight to the truth. On Monday morning, I kissed her cheek before work, lingering just long enough to make her uncomfortable. Her eyes darted to the clock as if worried she'd be late. My chest tightened, but I smiled. "Don't work too hard," I said, voice light. Inside, I added, "Save your energy for Jake." At work, my thoughts weren't on spreadsheets or emails. They were on timing, on routines. I realized her marketing projects always aligned with his late-night messages. Coincidence? Please. That's like saying a wolf just happens to hang around a sheep pen for the scenery. By Wednesday, I had crafted my first test. I told her I'd be working late, when in reality I parked down the street from our building with the engine off, waiting. It was a pathetic stakeout, complete with lukewarm coffee and the paranoia of every passing pedestrian, but patience was its own reward. At 9:12 p.m., a car pulled up. Not hers, his, Jake. I didn't know him in the flesh until that moment, but the way he leaned against the hood like he owned the night told me everything I needed. He wasn't just some fling. He was confident, comfortable, familiar. That stung worse than I expected. I watched her step out, hair loose, smile wide. It wasn't the half smile she gave me while scrolling through her phone. It was the kind that reached her eyes. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Part of me wanted to storm out, confront them, make a scene. The smarter part told me to wait. Because here's the truth, catching them in the act wasn't enough. I didn't want anger. I wanted artistry. Confrontation ends things. Exposure transforms them. So, I stayed quiet, memorizing every detail, the way she tilted her head when he spoke, the way his hand brushed hers casually like it was routine. When she returned that night, I was already in bed pretending to sleep. Her whisper of relief as she set her keys down was louder than any confession. I almost laughed. Imagine lying beside your husband thinking you fooled him, while he lies awake plotting every move. Delicious irony. Thursday, I tried something new. I joked about her perfume. Smells different. She stiffened. Only for a second, but enough for me to catch it. She laughed it off, said it was a sample from the mall. I nodded, smiled, pretended to believe. Inside, I cataloged the slip. Friday evening. I set the bait. Over dinner, I mentioned an upcoming work trip out of town. Her eyes widened ever so slightly. She tried to mask it with interest. "Oh, that's great, honey." But her excitement leaked through. She thought she had a window. Perfect. That night, while she showered, I slid into her phone again. Same pattern, messages from Jake. But this time, something new. Plans. Saturday, 8 p.m. Finally, no interruptions. My stomach twisted. There it was, the confirmation. Not speculation, not paranoia, a date. I didn't explode, didn't even frown. Instead, I smiled in the glow of her phone screen, like someone finding a missing puzzle piece. Because now, the stage wasn't just set, it was lit. And the actors were already in costume, rehearsing lines they didn't know I'd memorized. Saturday came like Christmas morning. I left for my trip, suitcase in the trunk, heart pounding. But instead of driving to the airport, I circled back, parked 2 blocks away, and waited. Again. Always waiting. Patience, after all, was my weapon. At 7:55, her car pulled out. She was dressed to kill. The same dress she wore on our anniversary. Bold, cruel, maybe ironic. My jaw clenched. I followed at a distance, headlights dimmed, like a shadow, a ghost trailing a ghost. She pulled into a quiet restaurant lot, stepped out, and there he was, Jake again, confident as ever, hand on her waist like he owned it. They disappeared inside, laughter floating in their wake. I sat there in silence, watching, calculating. Not yet. Not tonight. The temptation was there, burning, to walk in, flip their table, make the world see. But no. Too small. Too predictable. I wanted more than confrontation. I wanted memory. Something that would haunt them every time they thought they were safe. So, I drove home. Empty house, silent walls, mocking me with their stillness. I poured a drink and sat in the dark, smiling to myself. Because the best part wasn't catching them. It was knowing. Knowing every move they made, every word they whispered, while they believed I was clueless. That's power. Emma walked in past midnight, humming softly, the faintest trace of his cologne clinging to her dress. She thought she was clever. I thought she was hilarious. She had no idea the script had already been rewritten, and she wasn't the author anymore. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next, because I wasn't building toward a fight. I was building toward a masterpiece. And a masterpiece requires patience, timing, and just the right twist of the knife. Sunday morning, Emma made pancakes like nothing was wrong. She hummed a tune, kissed my cheek, and asked if I slept well. The sheer confidence in her performance almost impressed me. Almost. If lying were an Olympic sport, she'd have gold medals stacked on the mantle. I played along, buttering my pancakes, nodding like a man content in domestic bliss. But my mind wasn't in that kitchen. It was 3 steps ahead, rehearsing lines for a play she didn't even know she was in. Every bite of syrup-soaked pancake was practice for my finale. The following week, I laid the groundwork. Casual questions about her schedule, innocent requests to borrow her laptop, feigned interest in her project deadlines. Every answer, every pause, every flicker in her eyes was logged. By Thursday, I had everything I needed. Not just suspicion, not just whispers, but proof. Screenshots, location logs, voice recordings from calls she thought were private. I gathered them like trophies, arranging them neatly in a folder. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same attention to detail I used at work to build strategies, I was now applying to destroy my own marriage. Friday night was the night I chose. Not in a rage, but with the calm precision of a surgeon. Emma thought I had another late meeting, so she dolled herself up, slipping into that same red dress. The one from our anniversary, repurposed for betrayal. The symbolism was almost poetic, but this time, I wasn't following her. I was already at the restaurant. I booked a table in the far corner, early enough to blend into the scenery. Lights dim, jazz playing softly, wine glass in hand. A perfect stage. When they walked in, laughing hand in hand, I almost applauded. They didn't notice me at first. Why would they? I was supposed to be busy. I watched them settle in, Jake brushing her hair back with familiarity that made my stomach knot. But I didn't feel rage. I felt anticipation, like an actor waiting for his cue. When the waiter delivered their drinks, I sent over a bottle of champagne. My name on the card. Emma froze. Jake frowned, confused. Slowly, like ice spreading across glass, realization crept across her face. She turned, eyes searching, and there I was, smiling, calm, raising my glass in a silent toast. The color drained from her cheeks. Jake shifted uncomfortably, clearly unprepared for a husband with front-row seats. Emma stammered something, but I stood, walked over, and placed the folder gently on their table. "Since you're both so invested in this partnership," I said, "I thought you'd like to review the minutes." Her hands shook as she opened it. Screenshots, logs, messages, all there. Her laughter, her secrets, her betrayal, printed in black and white. The silence between us was louder than the jazz. Jake muttered something about leaving, but Emma couldn't speak. She just stared, caught in the wreckage of her own lies. I didn't shout, didn't cry. That would have given them power. Instead, I leaned in, my voice low, steady. "Do you know what's worse than cheating? Thinking you're clever enough to get away with it." I smiled then, sharp as glass. And Emma, you were never that clever. I left before they could respond. Walked out into the night air, light, unburdened. Behind me, the restaurant buzzed with whispers. Good. Let them talk. Let the story spread. Emma wanted drama. She wanted a secret stage. Now she had an audience. Back home, the silence felt different. Not heavy, not accusing. Free. I poured myself a drink, sat by the window, and finally exhaled. For the first time in months, I wasn't the fool fumbling in the dark. I was the one pulling the strings, writing the script. By midnight, Emma came home. She tried to explain, to cry, to twist words into excuses. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I simply handed her an envelope with divorce papers already signed on my end. You wanted freedom, I said. Now you have it. No audience required. Her tears didn't move me. Her apologies sounded hollow, rehearsed. I'd already mourned the marriage in silence weeks ago. What she was witnessing wasn't anger. It was closure. And closure, I discovered, can taste sweeter than revenge. In the days that followed, I kept my head high. Friends whispered, co-workers speculated, but I didn't care. I wasn't the broken man in this story. I was the author. Emma and Jake? They were just characters in a tragic comedy, one they'd written themselves. Looking back, the irony is clear. Betrayal isn't the end of the world. It's a spotlight. It shows you who people really are, strips away the performance. And in the silence that follows, you find yourself stronger, sharper, more dangerous in the best way. Emma thought she was playing me. In reality, she was auditioning for a role in her own downfall. And I walked away not as a victim, but as the man who finally stopped laughing at the wrong jokes.